Governor Gavin Newsom is reacting tonight to the proposed California billionaires tax.
It just got enough signatures to go before voters in November. The 5% one-time tax would apply to Californians with a net worth of at least $1.1 billion. So if you do the math, that could be $55 million in a one-time tax. The state would have to spend that money on health care. Governor Gavin Newsom says he is strongly against it, saying it'll drive billionaires out of the state. Tonight, his office said the governor supports making the wealthiest Americans pay their fair share, but this poorly designed state-only measure will defund teachers, schools, clinics, and public safety.
That right there tells you everything. Your boy, Gavin Newsom, is trapped. You see, on the one side, he wants to sound like the champion of the people. He wants to say, tax the rich, make billionaires pay, fight inequality, stand up for working families. That's the speech. But on the other side, he has the billionaire class. He has the donors, the tech money, the political machine, the people who fund these campaigns, the people who get phone calls answered. So now Newsom is caught in the middle of the monster his own system helped create, because California has a billionaire tax moving on to the ballot, a one-time wealth tax per se. And suddenly all that talk about taxing billionaires, it's getting real quiet. See, that's the part that we all need to pay attention to, because politicians love slogans when slogans get votes. But when a slogan threatens the donor class, when the slogans threaten the money, now they tell you to read the fine print. Now they tell you it could hurt the state. Now they tell you it could chase money out of California. Oh, wait a minute. You mean the same people who told regular Californians to sacrifice, to pay more, to accept more taxes, to accept more fees, to accept higher gas, higher rent, higher insurance, higher utilities. Now suddenly they're worried about people leaving? That's the trap. And this is why Los Angeles keeps falling apart, because the public gets sold emotion. The insiders get protected by policy.
A proposed one-time wealth tax on the assets of California's billionaires is officially now headed to the November ballot.
Yeah, it made it, and it's setting up one of the biggest political fights we'll see this cycle, and perhaps the costliest.
Yes, ABC 7 Eyewitness News political reporter Monica Madden joining us now. So, Monica, there's quite an unexpected coalition developing of people against the billionaire tax, and we can assume this is mostly billionaires.
That's what you would expect. There are a lot of wealthy people whose assets amount to $1 billion and more who have come out against this. Of course, Sergey Brin, Peter Thiel, they come to mind. They've been really vocal about this, but also, Republicans, as expected, saying that it will be bad for the state. Now, you wouldn't exactly pit those groups together with Governor Gavin Newsom, who's been one of the loudest Democratic opponents. And with that, because he is the de facto leader of the state, has come with a lot of support with this unlikely group. So the California Teachers Association is against the wealth tax. Planned Parenthood Affiliates of California also against it. The State Building and Construction Trades Council also came out against this wealth tax recently. So it's not really a group that usually coalesces. Doesn't mean they're going to be working together, but it shows that there's a broad opposition to this. There is a lot of support too on the more progressive traditional side, but it was surprising to see some of these groups come out against it.
In short, what are the reasons they give for being opposed to that? I'm thinking especially the labor groups and Governor Newsom. Is it that we don't want the Sergey Brins to move away like he has?
Yeah, the governor has been very specific in that he does not think that it will be good for the state's overall economic future. There have been some economic studies that have kind of had mixed results about the impact that this will have on the budget. Remember, this is a one-time 5% tax on billionaires' assets, so a lot of things that can be covered under that. However, with the way that it's written, because this was written by SEIU in favor of healthcare support, this money would be used just to go to some of the healthcare deficiencies that we have in the budget right now. So a lot of the cuts that we're seeing because of the federal government's cuts to Medi-Cal, for example, this would help backfill that. So that's why you see some of these other labor organizations saying, wait, we want to tax billionaires too, but we want to be reaping some of the benefits like education. The teachers are like, hey, we need help too with our budget.
So this wouldn't go to the general fund. It goes
Correct.
to one specific area. So are we expecting to see a lot of TV ads, radio, like people pouring money in, billionaires one side, non-billionaires?
Absolutely. If you thought that this past election was expensive with all of the spending we saw, and mind you, just for a primary election, of course, Tom Steyer breaking records, spending over, $200 million of his own money, just buckle up with this one. We're already seeing a lot of spending. I believe the opponents so far about more than $100 million, and then proponents 30 million. It's a little bit hard to track those financial numbers. Our data team was doing a good job trying to parse it because we don't have a proposition name yet for it, but there's going to be a lot of money going into this, I'm told.
All right, and we got to go, but I just really want to quickly point out that Governor Newsom, widely expected to run for president, he's going to need some of those billionaires' support as well for that.
Yes, absolutely. So that's part of the reason why you see the governor coming out against this. But then on the other hand, you have people like Ro Khanna, who's also rumored to run for president. He's betting that people are going to be in this kind of like Bernie progressive camp. So he's going all in favor of this, hoping it'll appeal to those voters.
And let's be honest. Most people hear billionaire tax and they say, good, tax them. They have too much money anyway. And I understand that reaction because regular people are honestly tired. Regular people are tired of working harder and falling behind. They're tired of rent eating up their paycheck. They're tired of politicians telling them that the economy is strong while they're one emergency away from being completely broke. They're tired of watching billionaires get richer while the city around them gets worse and worse and worse. So when somebody says, we're going to tax billionaires and use that money for healthcare, for schools and food assistance, that sounds good. It sounds fair, sounds righteous. But this is where people have to slow down. Because the question is not just, should billionaires pay more? The question is, who gets the money? Who controls the money? Who distributes the money? Who audits the money? And what happens when that money disappears into the same machine that already failed us? That's the part we never want to talk about, and they won't talk about, because California is not broke because regular people have not paid enough. California is not broken because taxpayers have not sacrificed enough. California, Los Angeles is broken because money goes into the machine and results do not come out. Every crisis here becomes a funding opportunity. Homelessness becomes a funding opportunity. Housing, funding opportunity. Healthcare, funding opportunity. Crime, funding. Education, funding. And somehow, some way, after all that money, the public is still standing there asking, where did the money go? It's not compassion. No, that is extraction with a smile.
A one-time tax on billionaires has qualified for the ballot in November. Secretary of State's office says the measure collected enough signatures to ask voters to put a one-time 5% tax on the ultra-rich. Revenue collected would go toward health care, food assistance, or education-related programs. Supporters include Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders. Opponents include Governor Newsom and many in Silicon Valley. The only way for the measure to not appear on the November ballot would be for those behind it to pull it themselves before a June 25th deadline.
I know a lot of people are begging for this, but I don't think they fully understand what they're actually asking for. Let's talk about socialism without the slogans, because a lot of people don't even know what they're asking for. They don't know what they actually think that they desire. They just know that they're angry. They know that they're broke. They know that something is wrong. And in that case, they're right, something is wrong. But socialism comes in and says, give the government more control, give the state more money, give the system more authority. Let them decide what is fair. Let them decide who gets what. Let them decide who pays. Let them decide, the government, who owns. Let them decide who deserves. And that is where the danger starts. Because the government, govern your mental, is not a magical force from the sky. The government is simply human beings like you and me. People with egos, people with donors, folks with friends, folks with enemies, with ambitions, with agendas, with backroom deals, with political careers to protect. So when you say, let the government control more, what you are really saying is, let another group of human beings have more power over my life. That is the part they finesse people on. They sell socialism as compassion, but what it often becomes is control. Control over businesses, control over your property, your wages, housing, control over energy, control over your movement, control over what you can build, what you can own, what you can keep, and what you must hand over. And they always start with the people who you don't like. They always start with the billionaires. They start with the corporations, the landlords, the rich, and people, they go crazy. They cheer, yeah. But once the system gets to power, it does not stay pointed at the top forever. No. It moves down. It always moves down because the machine has to keep on eating and eating and eating. It's hungry. Now, here's where they trick people. They point at the broken economy and say, see, Capitalism failed. But hold on. Is this real capitalism? Or is this crony capitalism? Because real capitalism is supposed to be competition, it's supposed to be ownership, private property, small business, free markets, the ability for regular people to build something and keep the reward of their work. But that's not what we're seeing here in California, is it? No. What we're seeing is government picking winners and the government picking losers. Big corporations surviving regulations that crush small businesses. Massive donors getting access regular people will never get, don't even know is available. Nonprofits collecting checks while the crisis gets worse and worse and worse. Developers, consultants, agencies, unions, committees, and politicians all circling around the same pile of money. That's not free market capitalism. That's a rigid table. That is capitalism altered for the wealthy. That is capitalism with the competition removed. And then after they rig the game, they turn around and tell the public, the problem is capitalism, don't you know? No. The problem is corruption. The problem is monopoly. The problem is government favoritism. The problem is politicians selling access. The problem is the rules of the rich can survive, but the small guy cannot. The problem is a system where the wealthy and the political class are not enemies. Instead, they are partners. And now those same people want to sell you socialism as the fix. That's like the arsonist selling you fire insurance.
First here at 5 o'clock, a DOJ investigation, a fundraising appeal, and a possible White House hint. Some 24 hours after Governor Newsom said the U.S. Department of Justice is investigating him and his wife, he's asking supporters for money in an email referencing his potential presidential ambitions. Thanks for joining us tonight for Fox 40 News at 5. I'm Nithya Lorenzo.
And I'm Eric Harriman. At the same time, the governor is also demanding answers from the DOJ, seeking internal records related to the investigation. Fox 40 Capitol reporter Eitan Wallace joining us live to explain what we know, and Eitan, what might happen next with all of this.
Yes, Eric and Nikki. Well, those I spoke to in the political world and the legal world believe Newsom is trying to stay ahead of this. He's trying to control the narrative, if you will, all while trying to raise money and get answers.
Donald Trump picked the wrong target. We have nothing to hide.
It was the sudden announcement Monday that rocked the political world. In this social media video, Governor Gavin Newsom claimed President Donald Trump has instructed the U.S. Department of Justice to investigate Newsom and Newsom's wife, California First partner Jennifer Siebel Newsom. The governor not specifying what he and his wife may be under investigation for, but he did say federal investigators have already started to question people in Newsom's orbit.
In recent days, federal agents have knocked on the doors of family, friends, and former employees. Not because they found a crime, because they're simply trying to find one.
The U.S. Department of Justice declined to comment, but a source familiar with the investigation said the U.S. DOJ for the last year has had multiple investigations ongoing into the Newsoms, including one related to Newsom's wife and her taxes, and another related to Newsom's former chief of staff, Dana Williamson, and potentially current staff members. The source added the investigation stemmed from whistleblower complaints and other sources in California, adding it's all being handled through the U.S. Attorney's Office in Sacramento. Newsom maintains any investigation involving him or his wife is politically motivated.
Donald Trump isn't just coming after me because of my mean tweets. He's coming after me because I'm considering running for president.
Just hours after his announcement, Newsom sent out this fundraising email titled, quote, "Because I am thinking of running for president." In it, Newsom asked for money to support his legal and political strategy against President Trump. Newsom later sent the U.S. DOJ this Freedom of Information Act, or FOIA, request demanding records, including emails and texts from Trump Justice Department officials containing any reference to Newsom or his wife. Claremont McKenna College professor of government Jack Pitney says it's clear Newsom is trying to control the narrative.
He's out in front. He's announcing it rather than the Trump administration, and that gives him a certain advantage in messaging.
Speaking of messaging, Pitney says it's no surprise Newsom's video and fundraising email referenced the governor's potential presidential ambitions.
Newsom's statement is openly saying he's considering a race for president. If you're seeking the Democratic nomination, the best thing that could happen to you is to have Donald Trump come after you, because Democrats really dislike Trump. And if Trump comes after you, that's somebody you want to support.
As for the apparent investigation into the Newsoms,
any criminal investigation can take months, sometimes even a few years.
That gives Governor Newsom a long time to raise money for a legal defense fund. At least as of today, the advantage goes to Newsom.
Now add this investigation cloud around Newsom. And I'm going to be very careful right here with my words. You see, Newsom has claimed that the DOJ is investigating him and his wife. He says it's political. He says Trump is coming after him. He said they're trying to find the crime. Maybe that's true. Maybe it is political. Maybe it's not. But here's what I want people to watch. I want you to watch the playbook. When regular people are investigated, the system treats them like criminals. When powerful, so-called powerful politicians are investigated, they become victims. They fundraise off of it. They campaign off of it. They turn it into a brand. They tell you, they're not attacking me. No. They're attacking you. No. The political class has gotten so comfortable being untouchable that accountability now feels like persecution. This is the same thing we see in Los Angeles time and time again. Every time the public asks questions, the machine changes the subject. Where did the money go? They say you're attacking compassion. Why are the streets still broken? They say you don't care about the vulnerable. Why are businesses leaving? They say you're defending the rich. Why is housing still unaffordable? They say you're against progress. Why does every so-called solution in California require regular people to give up more money, more control, and more sovereignty?
Former reality TV star and LA mayoral candidate Spencer Pratt has conceded defeat in a new social media post, but also appears to threaten the two remaining candidates. Pratt says he isn't going anywhere and will continue his efforts to, quote, save Los Angeles.
He even threatens to release recordings of one of his opponents that he says would, quote, force her to resign, but didn't specify who he was talking about.
You think you can get rid of me that easily? I know a lot of dim-witted jerks thought I was in this for a grift, that I was going to roll up and leave town if I didn't get into City Hall.
And this is where Spencer Pratt comes right back on into the story, because whether you like Spencer Pratt or not, whether you voted for him or not, whether you thought the whole thing was serious or ridiculous, he exposed something. He exposed how desperate people are for somebody outside the normal machine to say what everybody already knows. Los Angeles is not working. And the people in charge keep pretending it's just one program away from being fixed. One more tax, one more bond, one more emergency declaration, one more committee, one more study, one more nonprofit contract, one more progressive slogan, one more person telling you they're fighting for the working families while working families cannot afford to live here. That's why Spencer mattered. Not because he had all the answers, as I keep saying, but because he showed that the public is looking for a crack. And the system hates cracks because cracks let light in. This is why outsiders get mocked. This is why they get dismissed. This is why the media turns them into a joke. Because once one person starts asking why Los Angeles looks like this after all the taxes, all the programs, all the speeches, and all the promises, the whole illusion starts falling apart. And now you have this runoff. Now you have Bats versus Raman, the establishment versus the next phase of the same machine. And they're going to dress it up as change. But the question is simple. Will Los Angeles actually change? Or will it just get a new face on the same agenda? Because if every answer to every problem is more government control, more taxes, more spending, more regulation, and more dependency, that's not change. That is the cage getting smaller. So what is the real answer? It's not billionaire worship. It's not corporate worship. It's not pretending the rich should never pay taxes. No. The answer is accountability before authority. Audit the money before asking for more. Break up the monopolies before blaming capitalism. Stop protecting the donor class before lecturing regular people. Make government contracts transparent. Expose the nonprofit pipeline. Stop crushing small businesses with rules only big corporations can survive. Protect private property. Protect local ownership. Protect the right of regular people to build, to work, to save, to own, to pass something down to their children. That's how you fix capitalism. You do not hand the same corrupt class more control and call it socialism. Because once the state owns the solution, the state owns the problem. And once the state owns the problem never ends. Because the problem becomes the business model. That's Los Angeles. That's California. They don't fix the crisis, they manage the crisis. They fund the crisis. They campaign on the crisis. They guilt trip you with crisis. And when you ask why the crisis keeps getting worse, they tell you, we need more money. No, you need more accountability. You need more transparency. You need more competition. You need more fear of the people who pay the bills. Because right now, they're not afraid of us. Oh, they're very comfortable. And comfortable politicians do not fix cities. They feed off of them. So when Gavin Newsom tells you he's against the billionaire tax, don't just cheer and don't just boo. Study the contradiction. When he wants votes, he talks like a populist. When the donor class gets nervous, he talks like a fiscal conservative. When the investigation cloud shows up, he becomes a victim. And when Los Angeles keeps falling apart, the same machine tells you the solution is to give them more power. That's the scam. They broke capitalism. They protected the wealthy. They crushed the small guy. They buried regular people in taxes, fees, rent, regulation, and inflation. Then they turned around and said, see, capitalism failed. Now try socialism. No. Los Angeles does not need a new ideology from the same machine. Los Angeles needs the machine exposed. Because the question is not left versus right. The question is, Or are we fixing it? Or are we funding it? If you live in Los Angeles, you already know the answer. They've been funding it for years. And it's time to make them afraid of the people again. I'm Wolf Kage, and this is Wolf Kage Los Angeles. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. And until the next time, peace.